Hello, my name is Ethan, and welcome back to another episode of Path of Exile Harvest League. So I just woke up, but I really want to get into this shit, so bear with me. Good morning, how you guys doing? So last night, when I was going to bed, I saw that this was posted. So this is the balance manifesto for Harvest League, and there's a lot of shit here. There is a lot of stuff here. Okay, so first, before I go through the general, everything, I want to point out the most important things I found because, important, so people can get what they came for, get the important shit from if they follow me, what I think is important for us. Okay, so passive skill tree changes probably affect us. I haven't read it. Cluster jewels probably affect us. Haven't really read it too much. But I know for a fact that this Vaal Molten Shell affects us. So, Vaal Molten Shell also removes and is removed by other guard skills. This is already one fix, because you could stack a Mortal Call, cast when damage taken with a Vaal Molten Shell. Now you can't. Rest in peace. The second thing is they reduce the amount of that it blocks. You need more armor, and it won't. Oh, it still lasts for a long duration, but it's just way worse. And this resulted in a Vaal Molten Shell being used on a huge proportion of characters, including those that didn't get much armor beyond a Granite Flask. So I think that we're okay. We were mostly using it for the big shield and not using it for armor, and so that's kind of cool. And so I think ours, we might still be able to use it. Okay, and then here's the other funny thing. These are definitely too targeted at us, okay? So it makes our delving harder. Cyclone. What did I say about Cyclone? Why do I go Cyclone? Phasing and stun immunity. Well, you can get phasing, perma-phasing with many other options, like running haste and using a Watcher's Eye with phasing while affected by haste, or you can do phase run, or you can do withering step, or whatever. Tons of options, many ways to get phasing. But stun immunity, though, I put to Cyclone and Unwavering Stance. Cyclone was better because it you can still dodge. Unwavering Stance makes it so you can't dodge. Unwavering Stance is also really fucking far on the skill tree, so that's why they changed the position of Unwavering Stance on the skill tree, because they removed stun immunity from Cyclone. So it's actually funny that this won't matter because we actually did the 1500 delve, I believe, without Cyclone. I think it was without Cyclone. I think I was running around and standing still and using skills and not cycloning because I had more range if you don't cyclone, because AI from the minions is kind of bad with Cyclone. Okay, so now that I got through the things that I think that actually affect us, I don't think there's anything else, and maybe passive skill tree. So should I start here? Fine. Other passive tree changes. We made a large number of changes to the passive tree with the intent of supporting recently introduced mechanics, as well as providing more variety of clusters, especially those lacking in obvious power. We wanted to add support for mechanics that have been added in the past few years that as of yet do not have adequate support on the passive tree. Some of these mechanics include Rage, Unleash, Corpse Manipulation, War Cries, Heralds, and Banners. Ah, fuck. The Warcry clusters that affect exerted attacks are very useful for slower attacks. Okay, dude. I guess I should just read the rest because it doesn't affect us, but whatever. The Martial Experience cluster is a good example of how total recovery per second from Life Leech has improved. Now taking the longer path through this cluster, this will give 220% increased total recovery per second from Life Leech, enough to cause a single hit to be able to leech up to 6.4% of your maximum life per second. These changes were made so a big hit against a boss still provides significant life leeched per second rather than having to attack repeatedly to reach maximum life leech per second. Many passive skill clusters offer the same thing as other clusters, with the only differences being the location on the tree and the number of passive skills in the cluster. In this patch, we've endeavored to give each cluster its own identity and function. We could literally lose nodes. Critical strike multiplier values have been lowered for almost every passive as well as from some items. Critical base characters far exceeded non-critical characters later in the game. This will bring the two a little closer together. We've added a new indigo oil. Oh shit, dude, wait. Good thing I read this. I don't know how this fits into the skill tree, but maybe it makes it so you have more anoints. Between the azurite and violet oils, this has made more common oils slightly rarer without making rarer oils even rare. Yeah, it did. Some notables will have updated oil costs as a result of changes to the passive tree. Not every indigo oil combination on the amulets will yield a notable yet. There are no new blighted notable passives, and 2 existing blight notable passives are now on the passive tree. New ring and blighted map anointments have been added. What? Oh, awesome. We get to find out what indigo oil does to maps and rings. Good point. We might even have a new tower to go with it. Or a new effect for towers. Okay, so now, yeah, so we've gone through the shit that I think affects us. It's very small. It's very minor. Stun immunity and Vaal Molten Shell Cycle. Okay, sure. Sure, we were way past Cyclone anyways. We're into the phase run, trying to get stun immunity through unwavering stance and shit, so it's fine. Every expansion provides an opportunity for us to reassess the current meta. Improve game mechanics that are currently weak and reduce the power of those that are excessively strong. You'll see more detail in the patch notes tomorrow, but in the meantime, our team has outlined some of the changes you'll be reading about and the goals we had in mind while making these decisions. Game balance in Path of Exile Harvest. In Path of Exile Harvest, we're putting much of our balance focus on brands, war cries, and two-handed weapons. Does that mean... So this whole time I keep hearing two-handed weapons and slow attacks and slams. I'm like, zombies? I used a two-handed weapon. It was bullshit. Zombies have slow attacks. Because of the cooldown. You can't change the cooldown of the slam. And their slam could improve. Okay. And then I was also wondering if Leap Slime is changed, does it affect the Carrion Golems? As a result of Delirium going core, we've also taken the opportunity to balance cluster drills and their place in the game. We've worked to improve two-handed weapons with big, slow hits by improving these investment options across the board. So even though they're slow, big hits, they probably are OP. We've also lowered the output of some of the most excessively powerful builds from Delirium, like those that utilize the Purposeful Harbinger, notable passive in the Archmage Stormbrand build. Simultaneously, we've also introduced many new options and playstyles for peoples to gain new levels of power. So now this is about two-handed weapons and slow attacks. Two-handed melee weapons focused on having great risk for great reward. But over time, their power has dropped relative to one-handed weapons. We intend to bring this power back while still keeping the risk. Yeah, the risk is that you're giving up block to go in. You give up a shield. They're slower on average than one-handed weapons without the free mechanics that come with shields or dual wielding, but now have more defensive advantages available to them. Why would that make sense? Slow, heavy hits now deal enough damage to stun, even though the toughest bosses without as much investment in stun mechanics. Even the toughest bosses. Really? New sources of area of effect and powerful inherent damage from skills and supports. Free up passive points for life and defense if you choose to. Wait. Area of effect and powerful inherent damage? Wait a minute. This might affect the slams from my shit, dude. Dude. This would be so cool if we got supports and ways to... Indirect. Okay. And supports free up passive points for life and defenses if you choose to, including new options for a defensive Warcry effect and a new armor keystone. All high-level two-handed melee weapons have been rebalanced, pushing greater disparity between weapon types. The goal is that every high-level two-handed weapon has a role and is an ideal base type for somebody. For most two-handed weapon types, each weapon has its own implicit mod, focusing on specific mechanic associated with its weapon type. True. There have been new additions to the passive skill tree, providing power and utility, especially for melee characters, like the Tribal Fury, notable that was once only available from Blight Annoyance. Leech passives give much more total recovery per second for life leech than before, so reaching that is easier for slow attacks and two-handed attacks with some accessible investment. Okay, so they're like really focused on this leech thing and the uniqueness of the two-handed weapons. So I'm guessing buffs to axes. Okay, many skills intended to work well with two-handed weapons have been reviewed. Sunder, Acidic Strike, Tectonic Slam were changed significantly, while many others had numerical changes. Some slow attacks with added damage have had it removed, and their damage multiplier improved, as flat added damage inherently favors builds with high attack speed. Ground Slam, Earthquake, Ice Crash, Vaal Ground Slam, and Vaal Earthquake have had their physical damage, added physical damage, or added cold damage removed in exchange for improving their damage multiplier. Many of the new war cries and the new Fist of War support for slam skills greatly benefit slower attacks, synergizing very well with two-handed weapons. There are now many powerful options to invest in for slow attacks rather than the handful of mechanics that existed previously. Herald of Purity has been changed from adding physical damage to adding more physical damage, giving 12% more physical damage. This was to provide an equal benefit to weapon attacks regardless of their speed. Shockwave support now has multiple cooldown charges, as the new Fist of War support doesn't work with the triggered shockwave. Shockwave support is best suited for slow, non-slam attacks. You can make everything a slam. That isn't... okay, never mind. It has multiple charges. It's like turning a thing into flame dash. Dual wield. The physical damage multiplier from when dual wielding has been removed. This was originally added as a fix from half a decade ago to improve the damage of dual wielding relative to the higher damage of two-handed weapons and the overwhelming defensive power of the shields at the time. This allows two-handed weapons to remain the kings of damage, while dual wielding is the king of speed and some defensive benefits. Brands. The design of brands make them very powerful for clearing out areas with a very passive playstyle, as well as dealing damage to bosses with very little time spent standing still. This often meant brand characters weren't engaging with many challenging mechanics, instead running around waiting for enemies to die. We've known for some time that parts of these mechanics needed to change to tone down these advantages before we could introduce new brand skills. We have endeavored to make these changes without heavily impacting the core identity of brands. Brands now drop at their original or recalled location when the enemy they are attached to is slain. This prevents them chaining repeatedly out of the player's control, killing monsters that haven't had a chance to meet the player yet. Oh. Wow, brand recall no longer refreshes the duration of brands. We very much appreciate the utility of brand recall, but it has played a significant part in making brands feel very passive. We want to move in the direction of players having to recast their brands more often, with the option to invest in brand duration and reduce how often one must recast brands. Brand recall has a long cooldown and a lower value of cooldown recovery per level. We've added brand recall cooldown recovery to a number of places on the passive tree to give new avenues for investing in this rather than receiving the full bonus just for leveling the gem. We've lowered the detached duration of brands to bring them in line with mines. We've also had their detached duration lowered when last reviewed. This is simply because the duration was unreasonably long, especially with the new and plentiful brand duration passives. No, oh god, you have to invest more just to get what you used to have. Yo, they're dead. F, rip. Because of all of these changes. Oh god. We've been able to slightly improve the power of Stormbrand. Greatly improve the Armageddon brand. Improve the utility and power granted by the brand passives. Add a new brand cluster. And of course, introduce new brands, including the Arcanist brand that lets you trigger many different spells using brands. Ooh, the Hierophant brand node has also been changed, mentioned below. We've made some changes to the Hierophant, Chieftain, and Berserker that we'll be revealing soon. These are changes to one major notable on each tree, focusing on creating power individual, because Berserker or Chieftain's actually dead or something. Like, we can actually strength stack in a future league if they buff it to a cool thing around strength stack. On creating powerful individual mechanics that greatly influence how you play rather than overloading ascendancies with a plethora of related stats. Yeah, I really think that you should just give us more strength and Chieftain kept up. The Necromancer's Corpse Pack notable now has a maximum of 200% increased attack and cast speed from consuming corpses, as it was possible to get the value to self-scale to problematic numbers using Arcanist brand, which is the new one, right? Introduce new brands, including Arcanist brand that lets you trigger multiple spells using brands. And so you could trigger him really, really fast. Okay, war cries. War cries have changed significantly. Using a war cry is now far more powerful than before. Wait, we might have to use war cries in a minion build because it's just a good buff. Comes with a longer use time and a longer cooldown. So it's like a Vaal skill. Cooldowns are no longer shared between war cries. Whoa. More notes can be found in the Warcry reveal post. The goal of these changes is to have Warcries be something that has a far more significant impact on combat, with great reward for taking the risk of standing still and using an ability while surrounded. That sounds horrible. Okay. It must be really fucking good. Using multiple different Warcries is now possible, and a reason to heavily invest in a mechanic that you're able to take advantage of multiple ways on a single character. For those that prefer the old playstyle, we've added the Keystone that lets you use the Warcry instantly at the cost of being unable to take advantage of multiple. This isn't a Keystone that's designed for characters that have heavily invested in Warcries, but rather for characters that have a specific single Warcry they wish to take advantage of. Makes sense. So if we only have one that's good, we might only want one, so then you could get more benefit out of the one and make it instant, which actually is good, like before. Maybe new Warcry passive clusters have been added, providing more avenues for investment in cooldown recovery, faster use time, giving more powerful damage bonuses when using exerted attacks, and rewarding the use of multiple Warcries. Many. Oh, I thought it said maybe. I was like, I'm pretty sure it does. So yeah, many. Yes. Many existing unique items with Warcry related mods have been changed significantly, with some giving entirely new effects, most notably the Warband's Shield. Show me it. Stun. Changes to the power of slow attacks have resulted in it being much easier to stun bosses simply because of how much damage you can do in a single hit. So can't you also do like lightning? You get crazy shocks with these slow hits. Rather than increasing the stun threshold, bosses now become immune to stuns for a short duration after being stunned. Most major bosses and map bosses have a stun immunity duration of 2 seconds! The duration is longer on powerful bosses like Guardian, the Shaper, the Elder, and Cyrus, lasting 4. They must have really buff stuns, dude. And does that mean Ruthless? Stunning is now a great defensive advantage for slow, heavy-hitting characters without completely mitigating the threat of an encounter. Makes sense. Stun duration becomes more important as you can no longer chain together many short-duration stuns. Oh, if you had a ridiculous stun, yeah. Oh, perma-stunning. Even with the new stun immunity, because it doesn't matter after getting stunned if they're immune for 2 seconds, if they're still stunned, or 4 seconds. That's pretty gross. A boss just never moves. Keystones. We've added new keystones to the Martyr Duelist section of the tree. These allow investment into slow impale attacks, mitigating big hits with armor, and making Warcries more accessible to non-Warcry invested builds. Each of these allows you to improve some weaknesses that certain strength-based characters, especially two-handed melee characters could have. Dude, this is me! This is us, guys. Like, you know how we fit this literally to the T, except for it's not my attacks. It's not big hits with armor is nice. I want to mitigate big hits with armor, and we might be able to use a war cry, one war cry. Also, certain strength based characters. Oh, strength stacking zombie, dude. We're literally a slow hitting, two-handed strength stacking melee build, basically. Okay. They need to buff zombies. Okay, many powerful keystones that were previously only available from timeless jewels have been added to the passive tree, such as glancing blows, which is double your block, 50% of a blocked attack is still taken as damage. The agnostic and wind dancer. So glancing blows is insane, but I think they also said they're nerfing it because block is insane or something, and they're also nerfing bone offering, I think was the other one mentioned, but they didn't put it here. Okay, so we've already gone through the passive skill tree. Let's go through the cluster jewels. Cluster jewels will remain in the game, available from Delirium encounters. Delirium encounters will be less common, but will drop significantly more cluster jewels. That's what I predicted, because it's been the common theme for all the past leagues than before, as we still want cluster jewels to be an accessible and major part of the character development, especially if you're actively trying to find them. Yeah. Many cluster jewel notables were problematic when stacked multiple times rather than limiting notables to one. Yay! We've introduced rebalance. We've instead rebalanced or significantly changed these notables or added caps to the maximum value you can receive from a certain kind of effect. Of particular note, Purposeful Harbinger now gives aura buffs from skills have 8% increased effect on you for each herald affecting you up to 40. So 1. This means that 5 heralds on you and 1 Purposeful Harbinger notable. You can reach full effect. Or you can use 3 heralds and 2 Purposeful Harbinger notables. Changes to Warcries have meant that all Warcry Cluster Jewel notables have been reworked, which also introduces some new effects. Wow! Some Cluster Jewel brand notables have also been rebalanced. Holy shit. Weightings of notables and other modifiers have been adjusted, with the most powerful notables and 2 jewel sockets being much less common. Fuck you. As crafting an exceptional cluster jewel was far too easy. I knew it. They were too good. The unique jewels from the simulacrum will still be available, though will be rarer as a result of Delirium not being in every area. Makes sense. Voices of Megalomaniacs are unchanged, while split personality is now limited to 2. No! This jewel was the go-to jewel for any attribute stacking build, so we want to push more variation. Yep, I'm glad I made the fucking builds then. I'm so glad we showed that strength stacking build before it was deleted, because it's now not even possible. Woo! Yes! Oh, it's so good! It's so good, dude! We knew it! It was broken! Oh, awesome. Okay, next. No keystones from any of the Delirium uniques have been changed, though like the Simulacrum jewels, these will be less frequent as you will be encountering the unique boss that drop them less frequently. Okay, makes sense. These Cluster Jewel notables will no longer be available. Gladiatorial combat. Oh, deep cuts was insane when I build reviewed. That was insane. Intensity, confident, combatant, no witnesses. Any existing notables already on jewels will be retained. What? So I keep my legacy. Some notables or some of their effects have been moved to the passive tree, with deep cuts being the only exception. Jesus. Yeah, so they might have killed Vaal Molten Shell. Well, they definitely killed it in the use I was using it, which was abuse case, which is why did it stack with regular guard skills? It didn't make any sense. It was the only one because it was a Vaal. It's broken. It was broken. I'm actually pretty happy they fixed this, but it makes it unusable because I'm going to be using Immortal Call, and so this can't be in the build. It's gone. We lost it. Another one. We lost Cyclone too. There's literally no reason to go Cyclone anymore. It's dead. I guess this is what we wanted because it doesn't make sense that it should be the best casual channeling movement, stun immunity, phasing, melee, AoE. Like it was just so insane to be put in every build as the best movement skill to cast will channel with, and it's like, well, now Now, it's still the best movement skill the cast will channel with. That's the crazy part! It's still the best one! And it lost something. Okay. Oh, I should read the rest. Being able to move while dealing damage is already a powerful defensive benefit. Yep, and melee attackers are usually more resistant to stuns. The skill will still make you immune to knockback, and Vaal Cyclone still remains its stun immunity. Yeah, because you can't fucking move. You can't move. Okay, Archmage. Archmage support provided 2 significant power increase for builds when built around very heavily. We've made changes to bring it more in line with other builds while still noting that it's going to be a huge source of power for mana invested builds. It now provides less added lightning damage based on mana spent than it did before, down to 108% of mana cost at level 20. What was it before? We changed most items that increase mana cost. However, mine has been reworked and now it's limited to 1. Voidbringer and Apep's Rage now add a flat mana cost rather than a percent modifier. These items provided too great a damage multiplier from a single unique as their once downside had become an upside. We added a new passive cluster on the tree to let you increase the mana cost of your skills as a new avenue of investment, though at values much lower than what could be gained from those unique items. Unique rebalance. We've made many changes to unique items that were either failing to achieve their desired goals, had fallen behind other competing items, or were not deemed interesting enough for our current standards for unique items. Our goal for each of these unique items is to make sure there is a place for them on characters, even if that place is while leveling, and to do this in more interesting ways where possible. Many of the changes are numerical, either because the item was already sufficiently interesting or because it would stray too much from a supporter's original intent when the item was designed. More information will be coming in the patch notes. 2 unique weapons have been reviewed and tweaked as a result of their base types being changed. Overall, rare items should be more competitive with the most powerful unique items, and there will be a greater variety of useful unique 2-handed weapons. A few unique weapons that provided too much power, especially after changes to their base type, have had some values lowered. You also have to imagine that we're competing this season with some crazy fucking crafting, and so uniques would have to be more powerful anyways to like compete with the rares. Starforge, Disintegrator, Hegemony's Era will now have lower damage per second than on live, while other items remain the same or improved, nerfed. Starforge received the most significant reduction of damage, provided more physical damage than any other unique weapon by a huge margin. As it was designed before pure physical damage was a competitive way to build skills, it is now more in line with the damage of other unique weapons while retaining its special shock, area, and life modifiers. It now has a custom implicit of 30% increased global physical damage, as the Infernal Sword base type now usually gives 30% increased elemental damage. The Circle of Fear, Nostalgia, Regret, Anguish, and Guilt unique rings that affected heralds now give lower values of reservation cost reduction and lower values of buff effect. These rings provided too much power and were too obvious a choice for so many builds. Yep, it was required. You had to go them. Threshold Jewels. The unique Threshold Jewels for Dual Strike, Magma Orb, Molten Strike, Fireball have been changed. These new they now provide effects that change how the skill is built or downsides to offset their beneficial effect, each acting as a way to change how you build or play a skill rather than a must-have boost at the cost of a jewel socket. Glacial, this is long, dude. This is such a long post. Glacial Hammer, Shattered Chains, Threshold Jewel will no longer drop. All of these skills have been given increases to damage, area, or utility to compensate for the power lost from the Threshold Jewel. We will continue. That's actually really cool. Wait, that's really powerful. So that's like a big buff to Dual Strike, Magma Orb, Molten Strike, Fireball, because not needing the Threshold Jewel and having the power in the Jewel gem is better. We'll continue to look at these, look at the roles of other Threshold Jewels over time, making changes when possible and appropriate. That's nice. Slower Proj. The slower projectile support gem now grants a lower value of less projectile speed than before. This is because this single support was massively multiplying the close range damage of certain skills, and all of them were being balanced around the value from this support. It also means that we can be more generous with projectile speed granted by other sources. Molten Strike, Magma Orb, and Ball Lightning have had their damage and some of the other properties improved as their close range damage is now affected by lowered projectile speed. Other small changes. The Shakari Pantheon. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. The Shakari Pantheon has had its modifiers changed to half the duration of poison on you and prevent you being poisoned while you have at least 5 poison effects on you. This Pantheon trivialized a mechanic that was the core of one of the 4 major guardians of the current endgame and prevented poison being a threatening mechanic to any character. We've made improvements to totem AI for certain skills that had special targets like Blade Blast and corpse skills like Detonate Dead. Cool. Hexproof now gives immunity to curses on top of preventing any curse being applied. This means that if you gain Hexproof, you'll immediately remove any curses on you. This was an oversight that this wasn't already the case and will mean that stealing Hexproof from enemies will now clear all curses off you. So if you use a Headhunter and steal Hexproof, you're curse immune, so you can't self-curse temp chains, and so you lose your... Okay. Rip. This outlines just a portion of the changes you'll see in Path of Exile Harvest. They are still subject to change prior to release, and you'll see more information in the patch notes tomorrow. We look forward to seeing how players wield the new power introduced in Path of Exile Harvest, and in the meantime, we'll pour out a flask for our fallen meta builds. F. Archmage, Cyclone, brand skills. Yep. Rest in peace. Oh yeah, Herald build, Cluster Jewel builds. Rest in peace. Alright, that's all of the ridiculously long manifesto. This was a lot of fun to go through. It was a lot of fun to give my take on it, what affects us directly, how we're gonna handle it, what this actually means for us, and it was pretty good. But I don't think I think this looks really good. Like, we have indigo oil. We don't really get hit by much. This is way better than last season. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's all I'm going to tell you. We lost barely anything because I already have options instead of them. So we're good. But this is a big hit, dude. This is AIDS. I loved Vaal Molten Shell. I was abusing. Absolutely abusing. And this is why. So that's pretty good on them. Good job, GGG, figuring it out. That was exactly the problem. Nicely done. Now it'll be used in a lot less builds because I feel like people actually want cast when damage taken guard skills or just to use a guard skill. And using a guard skill will put a Vaal skill on cooldown apparently now. That's fucking crazy. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you guys for all the support. Can't do this without you guys. Thank you to anyone new who joins the Patreon or the YouTube members today. Thank you guys for all the support. And I'll see you guys in the next episode with, I believe, the patch notes. Hopefully. Bye!